At first, I am very embarrassed to admit, I felt resentment. What yes and essentially means if you yes and that's totally fine, but if we want to get better at improv, I can see why. That place gives me the creeps. Does your improv suck? I can help you with that. Welcome creators and adventurers. This is a video for both of you guys today. I am Holistic Dungeon Master and I help DMs master their craft with helpful videos like this one where we dive into 4 techniques that'll have you improving like Sam Riegel in no time. If you're enjoying my videos so far, then please like the video, crit the subscribe button and notification bell. Now let's get rolling. My improv. I'm not trying to brag, but my improv is pretty good now. I'm no Sam Riegel or Matt Mercer, but my players consistently tell me that their favorite things about my games are their interactions with NPCs and my ability to take one of their crazy ideas and just make it a highlight of each session. Excellent improv is how I do this, but I used to be absolutely woeful at it. I sucked at it. I used to constantly shut down my players' ideas, my NPC interactions were stale, and overall my games were just kind of lacking that little sparkle, that sprinkle of magic. All of this was because of one simple reason. I was afraid. I was afraid to let my players' wild ideas run rampant in my games, and I was afraid to take some risks with my NPCs. And why was I afraid? Because I didn't have the confidence to face the fear of making a mistake or improvising something weird or dumb. I used to lament my lack of skills when watching the cast of Critical Role do their thing, pull amazing things seemingly out of nowhere, improving like crazy. At first, I am very embarrassed to admit, I felt resentment and yes, indeed, even envy towards their skill, but I realized that envy, it's an excellent indicator of whatever you want in life, whatever it is that you want. And I wanted to become amazing at improv. So I've studied a bunch of different improv techniques, used them at my D&D table, ditched the ones that didn't work for me and kept the ones that got me to this level where it's my players' favorite thing about my games, the level of improv. I'm making this video so you can entirely skip all of that boring research and just get started right away, trying out and improving these skills that will not only impress your players, but will massively boost your confidence to handle whatever insane stuff your party throws at you. It's very important. Let's start with the one that most of you will have heard about already, but stay tuned for a bunch more equally powerful techniques. Before we delve deeper into the video, I'd just like to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters. You guys are helping me make better content for this channel and beyond, so thank you so much for supporting. More information about how you can support the channel at the end of the video. Yes, and you've heard this one before, I'm sure. It's the main thing that people say in forums and on Reddit posts when someone asks how to improve their improv. But what does it really mean? I saw a bunch of people literally just type yes and exclamation mark and not really dive into what exactly it means until I had to figure it out myself. First and foremost, it is a starting off point for all of the other techniques I'm about to mention in this video. So yes, it is spoken about a lot, but it is truly important. What yes and essentially means, if you yes and, you essentially accept the reality of what another player or your DM is saying. You take it, what they're saying, what they're giving to you, and you run with it. Now that you've done this, you've made that real, it is now the reality of this kind of narrative, this collaborative storytelling. Now you and your improv partner, you have a foundation of improv to build upon. Here's just some examples, however, just so we can really get this in our minds, what exactly yes and is. So here is what it doesn't look like. DM, is there a tavern around here? No. You ask a few passersby and you learn that there isn't one in the area. This is what yes and does look like. DM, is there a tavern around here? Okay, sure, yeah. After 10 minutes of strolling around the area, you hear the sound of bawdy songs being sung, and following these sounds that are mostly of merriment, you find the Scrumpy Jane, a ramshackle establishment that smells faintly of stale sweat and hard cider. The first DM didn't prepare the tavern. It's not in his notes, so he blocks that suggestion from the player, shuts it right down. This suggestion is in the form of a question, but really it's a suggestion and an improv opportunity that first DM really should have capitalized on. The second DM not only took this idea and ran with it, but they added some new information. So to improve on the concept even further, now it's not yes and, it's yes and. And now we are really set up for collaborative storytelling. Your players just have so much more to riff off if you approach it like this. Yes, and and another little thing at the end. So now maybe a PC of noble descent scorns the idea of entering such a place. Maybe the dwarf's favorite beverage just happens to be hard cider. The rogue probably understands establishments like this very well and that there's coin to be fleeced off of unsuspecting dice players. Players can also use this when RPing with other players or NPCs, right? Everyone can use this. Just take what they say and run with it and add some information at the end. But how do we know which tidbits to run with? We can't say yes to everything, right? No, probably not. The session would just get bogged down like crazy, right? But here's how you find the best things to riff off of. Listen attentively. Now, this might seem a little obvious, but we are all more focused on our own characters than other people's. It's just the facts. And that's totally fine, but if we want to get better at improv, we must focus our attention outwards. What are the players saying? What's happening in the scene the DM is narrating, right? What are the NPCs saying? What plans are being hatched? What jokes are being told? And what threats are being delivered? By listening, really listening to what's happening outside of our own plans for our PCs or NPCs, if you're the DM, we will pick up the juiciest things to yes and. Watch Matt Mercer when the party is planning stuff or RPing with each other. He is rapt, his attention is laser focused on them, and he is constantly vigilant for something he can riff off of or use against the party later, right? Sam Riegel, just for another example, is always listening to what's going on between the players. Watch an episode of Critical Role. Watch Sam. He is like Matt, he is always watching and listening. So you do this as well. We get better quicker by imitating what works and putting our own spin on it. So okay, you've been listening. You've been listening very attentively, and now you're role-playing with the PC or NPC. The collaborative improv is now in full swing, so how do you keep the ball rolling? Asking questions might seem like a great pathway to more improv opportunities, but it actually blocks them. You end up putting the burden on our improv partner instead of taking what they've given you and rolling with it. Of course, we can't avoid questions all of the time, that'd be silly, but we should seek opportunities to avoid them. And of course, we'll find them because we're listening very attentively now, aren't we? What does that mean though? Well, here's some more examples. Here's what not to do. I swore never to go back to that island. Why? What happened there? Do you see how that puts the burden back onto player 1? Instead, player 2 could have said something like this. I too have sworn never to return somewhere. Don't be such a curmudgeon. I happen to love that island. I can see why. That place gives me the creeps. They've added their own piece of improv now, a little bit of information about themselves, and they've given an opportunity for the other player to take their bit of improv and run with it. It's like a tennis match, right? Now look, I don't watch tennis, but I know what a rally is. It's where they keep up consecutive back and forth between the ball before it goes out of play. You want to keep up an improv rally. Sure, someone will drop the ball eventually, but what happened getting to that point is already a huge, a vast improvement to no rally at all. But how will your improv partner know what to riff off of? It can be difficult to know what to run with, but there's a way that we can highlight which direction we want the improv to flow. When improvising, we can add more detail to really highlight what we want our partner to riff off of. You can use details to drop pieces of info about your PC or NPC. You can flesh out the lore of the place if you're the DM, or your backstory if you're a player character, right? You can add information about locations. DMs or players can do this, right? If it's a location about your backstory as a player character, then yes, you can flesh that out. This is collaborative storytelling, that your DM shouldn't mind that. And ultimately, you can all world build. Here are some more examples. I know people love examples, I'm gonna throw a bunch of them in here. So instead of saying something like, this weaponsmith is extremely skilled, we could try something like this. This weaponsmith is extremely skilled. So much so that the guilds dare not bother them. My axe was made here and it's never let me down. See that etching right there on the haft? 2 sickles? That's how you know it's an original Mordenius blade. Now we've given some lore about the local guilds, we've emphasized the weaponsmith's skill, learned some character history, and we've even named the weaponsmith Mordenius. So many details that not only flesh out the world, but prompt improv, even more improv. Now look, all of these things I understand, it's a lot and it's tough. Improv is difficult. If you're new to this, you might even feel a little intimidated by all of these techniques. There's a lot of them, right? And they're all very involved. You might be saying, sure, yeah, it's easy to just say all of these things, but how am I gonna come up with this stuff? What if I try and say something stupid? Well, here's some wonderful news for you. Something you can use, a fantastic and lovely little piece of advice, and it comes direct from none other than Bob Ross. We don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents. Bob Ross. I'll be straight up, when you start trying to improve your improv, you're probably gonna suck at first, like I did. This is a good thing, though. Sucking at something at the start is a good thing. That horrible feeling of being bad at something can be leveraged for motivation to help you get better at it. Whenever you try and riff off something and it falls flat, whenever you say something that you thought would be hilarious and it's met with silence and crickets, whenever you do say something really dumb, lame, or unfunny, you gain some XP. You gain experience points, real life experience points, and eventually, what happens when you gain enough? You level up, right? When you use this skill, you level up in it, just like in Skyrim. Remember that game? Of course you do, they're still releasing it on every device imaginable. Failing again and again and again means that you're making progress. We can't become amazing at something without countless failures under our belt. The best part about these little mistakes is even if they do fall flat, you can just play them off as your character, your PC or NPC, saying or doing the thing. No matter what you do, however, whether it's good or bad, positive or negative, hilarious, or it falls flat, you are still inspiring improv from the other people at the table. It doesn't always have to be a positive interaction between characters. Just like Bob Ross says, there are no mistakes in improv, just happy little accidents. So get out there and start making as many happy little accidents as you can. But I need interesting characters for my players to improv with. I can hear you lament. Well, worry not, because I've written a bunch of system-neutral, story-focused, archetypal NPCs with no stats or mechanics or anything like that, so you can get started improving the improv of your games no matter what system you're running. I'm giving it away for free, and you'll find it down in the description below. Also down in the description below, you'll find the link to my community Discord server where we can hang out, discuss the game, you can meet other DMs and players who just love D&D and love talking about it. We run improv events, we are streaming prep sessions, we are crafting ideas together. So jump on in and join the fun. You've heard a lot from me, now I want to hear from you. In fact, we all do. Please get typing down in the comments below and let us know, do you use any of these techniques already? Which ones are the most useful to you as a DM or as a player? Let us all know, please, so we can foster this community of DMs and players indeed, who help each other hone their improv craft. If you've watched this video all the way up until now, then you are the person I make this content for, right? Someone who is truly dedicated to being the best DM or player they can be. So thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you'd like to support the channel further, you'll find the link to my Patreon down below, so jump on in there, subscribe, and you can really get an input into what content is made on this channel, and you can tailor it to your needs. But if you'd like a lovely free way to support the channel, then crit the subscribe button and notification bell. And remember, this world needs good improv.